Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're a returning subscriber, I love you so much. If you've not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and become a part of this family. Guys, as you can see today, I'm sitting in the lounge, coming live and direct from my lounge because I wanted it to keep it really cozy and relaxed. Today we're talking about something really serious. As you can see from the title of the video, we're talking about property rentals within Cape Town. Number one, what you need to do when you're going to be renting out property, either through an agency, if you're going to be renting out directly with the landlord, do's and don'ts, what you should expect, what you should look out for. I think myself, I've recently just started working in the real estate industry within itself, so I feel like I have expert advice that I can share. Firstly, I've been seeing a lot of people on my feed graduating and you know, just graduating varsity, graduating college, and now obviously if you're graduating, you know, the next step is finding a job and obviously moving into your own place, and for so many people there's so many questions, you don't know where to start. So I hope that this video can be a guide and help to those people that are going to go out there, start renting, looking for apartments and all of those exciting stuff. This video is actually a follow-up or a part 2 to my previous video. I'm linking it up here. I think I was speaking about what you should know before moving out of your mom's or your parents' house. If you haven't watched that video, make sure you watch it so you get the lowdown on that video. So this is a part 2 to that video. So in front of me, I have my laptop. I did put a poll on Instagram as well with a couple of questions. So I decided to merge the questions I got online as well as my experience, as well as some expert advice that I got online and what we can use for this video. So I have my glasses because I'm legally blind.
But I cannot see. I'm legally blind. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm innocent.
I'm legally blind, so I'll be reading from my laptop and then we're going to be cross-referencing the two. First and foremost, this video would be specifically for Cape Town. So if you live in Cape Town, this will directly apply to you. I don't know much of how rentals probably happen in other parts of South Africa. So disclaimer, if you are watching from Cape Town, this would directly be applicable to somebody that is in Cape Town. So with my situation, I'm currently renting with one of my closest friends. And we moved in here last year, August. So this is about our 9th month. We're going into our rental renewal process. So we have to find out whether we're going to renew our tenancy or if we're going to have to move out and find another accommodation. So our lease we were given a lease last year for a year, and it's now coming towards an end in July. So when a lease obviously comes to an end, and we're going to talk about it later on, it's either it's going to become a termination or you're going to apply for a renewal, and with the renewal the landlord can either accept or decline the renewal. Number one reason why we would use an agency, because it's legit. You know you're not going to get scammed, you know you're not going to be speaking to some person that's impersonating anyone, you know it's legit. Most agencies or all agencies are registered so that they can obviously be carrying out listings and so forth. You will access verified listings, meaning there's listings that have been verified, that have been put onto a platform such as Property 24 or maybe private property. So if you go through an agency, you know, number one, these people are legit, and secondly, you know that the listings or the property that they are going to be marketing are verified. Okay, you also know that there will be legal protection. So when it comes to agencies, because obviously agencies would work as the middleman between yourself and the landlord, or even if the agent itself is the one that's owning the property, they're going to make sure that the paperwork is there for the lease period, for the lease agreement, so that you know that it's actually verified and no one can come and just kick you out of your property or out of your space while you're in your tenancy agreement. Okay, and also the good thing about an agency, you get professional guidance. I know when we were getting this property, we had an amazing agent. Shout out to her. Her name is Samantha, and she works for Lansdowne Properties. And a good agent is so important because it just makes the process of finding accommodation and moving in very smooth. So your agency that you pick, and specifically the agent you work with, really helps with streamlining the process and giving you professional advice that you will need all the time. Make property in Cape Town, a lot of people complain about rentals being expensive, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you pay for where you stay. We live in one of the most gorgeous cities in the world. So guess what? You are going to pay a pretty penny to live in Cape Town. It just is what it is. And people are always comparing Cape Town to Joburg. Cape Town is not Johannesburg. Can you take a drive up and see a beach and see Table Mountain? No. So you are paying for all of this. And unfortunately, if you cannot afford the price, go somewhere where you can find somewhere that is affordable. I'm so sorry. Cry me a river. Cape Town prices are expensive because we live in the most gorgeous city. Alright, and it's only going to get more expensive with tourists coming in. So unfortunately, the cost is going to go up, and people that aren't going to be able to afford it are going to suffer the most. So you need to understand what is your budget. All right, do not be looking at places that you already know is out of your budget, because that does not make sense. So if you're going to look for a rental property, understand this is my budget. So if I'm going to be looking for a 1-bedroom in Cape Town, right? Let's say I'm going to be in city center CBD. I'm going to be forking out a minimum of 14,000 Rand if I'm going to be in CBD, right? The closer you are to town, the more expensive it gets. Because I know when we were looking for properties in Cape Town CBD were way expensive, and we had to decide, are we going to pay the price to be in CBD, or are we going to decide to look maybe outside of Cape Town? So the further out of Cape Town you look for places, then the more cheaper the rent will be. But the closer you are to town, the more your rent will be. If you're going to go out of Cape Town, maybe let's say you're going to go to your southern suburbs, if you're going to go to maybe Wynberg, Plumstead, maybe Retreat, you're going to see your rent being slightly cheaper. But now, what about your safety? Do you understand? So those are the type of things you need to take into consideration. If I'm going to be paying a cheaper rent that is further out of Cape Town, what is my security like? Am I going to be paying for my security as well? Is the area that I'm going to be in safe? So those are the type of things that you need to consider before you decide where you're going to actually stay. Next thing is completing an application form. All right. When it comes to completing an application form, very important that obviously you fill out all the questions as required. The agent will usually tell you all the required documentation that you need to attach. I know with us, when we saw this property, when my friend came to view the property, we were so in love with the property. And then the first thing we said was like, where is the application form? All right. And remember, when you're sending through an application form, there's other people that have viewed the property and also are sending through an application form. So now it's a competition. Okay. It's a competition for who has everything in order and who submits the quickest. All right. With an application form as well, you would have to also submit through an application fee. Most of the time the fee is non-refundable, so make sure that you will not expect to get the money back if you submit through an application form, because it's a gamble you take. It's a gamble you take with the chance of getting the property that you like. Quick story. So myself and my friend were viewing this other property before we found this property. It's in Tiger Keys. We were so in love with that property. Like when we walked into that property, it was so gorgeous. And then we told the agent, oh my gosh, we love the place. They were like, submit through the application fee, submit through the application, and then we will process you. Please tell us why after we left the property, another couple came to view the place, and we were like, fuck, we are losing that place. That couple is definitely gonna get the property for our own various reasons, which is very much obvious. But anyways, we're not gonna make it a race thing. But then we were like, okay, let's still submit through the application and everything. But in our back of our minds, we're like, that couple is gonna get the property and not us. So now the next day, we're waiting to get feedback. I call the agent, what's up? What's the update? Do we have the property or not? They were like, unfortunately, you guys did not make it. The property is going to someone else. And I was like, why? Can you please explain to me why we're not getting the property? And he was like, oh, you guys don't have enough credit history. And the other people that viewed the place had a stronger credit history. And then we were like, oh my God, we really thought we had that in the bag. So understanding that submitting paperwork is very important, and also some estate agents do check for credit checks and credit history to see if you do have a good standing with your credit. So that can also forfeit your application. So that you have good credit. If credit is something that they ask, you have a good background check with your documentations. They usually check for criminal records and so forth. So make sure you have a good standing with the law. And then after you've submitted through your applications and your application fees, obviously there's going to be a waiting period before you get feedback. If you're successful with the feedback that you've gotten, obviously you go on to the next step, which would be paying your deposit and also paying your first month's rent. Before I jump into deposit and first month's rent, sometimes, not even sometimes, most of the time, in order for you to qualify for a property, if you're going to take it through an estate agency, most of them are looking to see if you earn 3 times the rental amount. The reason why they ask you to earn 3 times the rental amount is to make sure, number one, you're able to pay the rent, and at the same time, you're able to survive. Because there's no point in just paying rent and having an empty house and an empty fridge. You need to be able to survive. So most of the time they ask you in order to qualify, you need to earn 3 times the rental amount. And a lot of people fall short with that. That's why I'd advise, if you're going to get an apartment, get it with a friend so that you can always take your salary and then your friend's salary, and obviously together your salary will definitely be more than 3 times the rental amount, and that would qualify you for the property. After you've qualified for the property, usually you would get your lease agreement. You would sign off your lease agreement. But when it comes to your lease agreement, very important, you need to look at obviously the length of your lease. Most of the time your lease can be an initial period of 6 months, or it can be an initial period of 1 year. And then obviously when you need to read the clauses. Very important, obviously, when you sign a lease, what are the terms and the conditions, when the landlord can decide to obviously terminate your lease, or what are the break clause if you need to maybe break the lease. So these are all important things that you need to take into consideration before you sign that lease, because when you sign that lease, you are bound in a contract. All right. Landlord is gonna be every month outside like, bitch, better have my money. All right. So before you sign a lease, it's something that's very serious. It is something you can go to court for. This is something that can put a bad record on yourself. So you need to make sure you are aware of all the factors that are in place, because most of the time I know I'm guilty of it. When you're looking for a place, you just want to sign on the dotted line, you just want to get accommodation, and we skim through the important things that are on the lease. And it's very important that you actually do take time to read through it. I know I didn't read through my lease agreement. I was just ready to move out and move in, but it's so important that you pay attention to those details and understand when you're signing on the line, you know what you're signing for. So like I said, most of the time it'll be a 6 months lease or it'll be a 1 year lease. And then when you come towards the end of your lease, like myself and my friend, we're coming towards the end of our lease, usually you will get a renewal. When there's a renewal on your lease, most of the time there's going to be an increase in the rent. So either it can be a 5% increase, or it can be an 8% increase, or it can be a 10% increase. So the landlord would decide on the increase, and you usually sign for the increase on your lease before you actually move in. So it's very, very important that you read all of those information. I think that just gives a summary. I think one of the common mistakes people can fall for is number one, not reading your lease agreement entirely. I want to emphasize the importance of reading your lease agreement. If you have any questions on your lease, ask your agent. Make sure you are aware of everything, all the clauses. Skipping property inspections. Maybe if you're going to be signed on to an agency, depending if the agency manages the property, they probably can do regular inspections, and if they see that something is not in order or whatever, they can take that money from your deposit. So if there are scheduled inspections for the property, make sure you are at the inspections, that everything is in order. Not budgeting for hidden costs. I feel like we are guilty for that. When we moved into this property, we didn't know that everything, the electricity and all of that it's an app we use, right? So we don't have an actual thing where you would punch the electricity. You have to upload everything on an app, and it's freaking expensive. It is freaking expensive because the utility bills are so freaking high. And the crazy part about it is you don't know how much the unit is moving. Today, maybe let's say you put in a unit for 1,000, you wake up in the morning and it's probably on 800, and you'll be like, how the fuck did I use 200 units in a day? So make sure you budget for those types of costs. I think with this type of situation, you just learn how to wing it as it goes. But I know the first time we came, I think we put in 600 rand. I kid you not, 600 rand was finished in 2 days, and we were like, fuck, how are we gonna survive? So I feel like you really just survive with time. So budgeting for hidden costs is so important, and that's why earning 3 times the rent amount is important, so that you're able to cover those extra costs. And then also falling for scams. Like I said, it's very important that you don't fall for scams. And I think going through an agency, you know it's legit. You can Google the estate agency online. If they don't have any reviews, if they don't have a physical office, you know it's a scam. Do not fall for scams. Do not fall for scams. There's many out there when it comes to properties and so forth. So make sure you are always cross-referencing with who is representing you. That really just comes towards the end of our video when it comes to finding rental properties in Cape Town. I'm wishing you all the best in your property search and in your property hunt. Make sure you are thoroughly reading your lease. If there's anything I can emphasize, please read your lease agreement. If you have any questions, ask your agency. I'm sure your agent would be more than happy to answer all the questions that you have. If you have any questions for myself, please do drop some questions and I'll be able to answer and I'll be able to assist you. Don't rush. Take your time. The right place is out there, all right? The right place is out there. So make sure you're thoroughly searching to find a place that you can call home, because there's nothing like coming to a place that you love, that you can just lay down your head and say, I did that, I found that place and I'm proud of it. So wishing you all the best in your property search. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.